everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Daniel Banks, aka DJ Fine, CEO of We Are Jersey ENT, We Are Jersey Magazine, and We Are Jersey Diamonds. And I got here with me, the poet herself, Miss Arson.
Hi.
Miss Arson, the poet.
Hi.
In the building, Jersey.
What's up?
What's going on? How are you? Thank you for coming.
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm great.
It's great. It's great. We have a poet in the building, y'all. I mean, this is rare. This is something dope. This is something that's going to consistently happen. So let's talk poetry. Let's talk poetry.
Yeah.
So we have. Go ahead.
Honestly, it's so weird when people call me a poet still to this point, but yeah, I guess I am that, right?
You are. She is a poet. She's the real deal, y'all. The real deal. She got a book and everything. Introspectrum is out. Make sure you go check that out. We'll tell you how to get that later. It's a lot to talk about. So, Miss Arson, let's talk poetry, right? Let's talk about the journey of a poet.
Okay.
Right? So, how long have you been doing poetry now for?
I mean, I've been writing poetry since I was 16, so that would be over 20 years.
Okay.
No, actually, it will be 20 years, August 15th.
Okay.
Literally, exactly. But I've been performing for about a year and a half now.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when did you start to step out of your shell and actually start performing poetry? Because were you just writing before? Like, was it just pen to paper and then kind of just sharing it around the world? And then now it's like, now you're sharing it pretty much verbally around the world. So tell me about like stepping out of that shell.
So, poetry was a secret for a long time, actually. Until like right the week before quarantine, when I was just like, I go to this coffee shop called Omi's, and I like love them. They're like, they have the best vibe. They also have a yoga studio down there, and so no one knew I was a poet. And then I heard about an open mic, and I was like, should I share one? Like, and then I got peer pressured. I'm very easily peer pressured. That's like,
but it was a good peer pressure. Definitely. Yeah,
I got peer pressured by one of my yoga instructors. She's like, just come. Like, it's not a big deal. And it really wasn't. The vibe there was really cool. And right after that, everything shut down. So I'd like to say that I was so good. I shut down the whole world.
Shut down the whole world.
That's how good.
One poetry slam.
That's how good. Right. There's probably YouTube up there of my first performance. You'll see it. It's really not good. But yeah, that's what started it. And then I just like, during quarantine, I had nothing better to do.
So you were just writing just the whole time?
Yeah, I was writing, and then I found out that there's Instagram lives of like open mics, because I was like, I really loved that open mic.
That's awesome. Okay.
And I just kept going.
I didn't even know that. There are Instagram lives about doing live poetry?
Yeah, there was like Instagram lives all over. There was a guy named Poetic Boy D. He's like an off-Broadway poet also.
That's awesome.
He's like amazing. And he used to have one like every night. And I met so many people that way. And they would just like, and everyone was kind of like a collective, right? And everyone kind of like, I don't know how it is with other performers and other creatives, but like in poetry world, everyone likes to lift each other up a lot, which is like awesome. I love that vibe.
Absolutely.
And there's not much drama, which is nice also. And so like everyone would give feedback to each other, and you either take it or leave it, whatever you want, like, right? And that helped a lot, because that helped elevate my poetry out of like I used to do a lot of like emo, dark, like, oh, life is a cloud and I'm just being rained on all the time.
Right.
Crap. That's like really not my mentality
really
anymore.
Dark metaphor, yeah.
It was not my mentality anymore. And like honestly, like when I first started, it was to get out all the angsty, emo, teenage, whatever clouds that were happening, storms that were happening, and yeah.
That's
just
awesome.
like
So what lane has this poetic life created for you as far as like an outlet for yourself?
Oh, it's really cool, because like I'm also an activist.
Okay.
I do a lot of. I actually had my own like virtual protest for the BLM movement when right after George Floyd happened, and I've been like trying to follow up in my township with it and all that. I also am trying to start a nonprofit called Sudara, and
you should check that out.
Yeah, that my whole like I feel like my entire mission in life has always been to like do something impactful and positive in the world, and I never realized poetry was the way to do it. Like poetry gave me a voice. And then I realized like I can use my voice for people who don't speak. So then now I write about topics that like people don't usually touch upon. Mm-hmm. Mom doesn't like it.
Right.
But I do it.
Right. But the feedback that you've been getting from doing the live poetry, from people reading it, has been like a lot of people's emotions are not entangled in it. Like she recently dropped Air. Make sure you guys check that. that spoken word, that poem is amazing. Like she tells, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that.
Movies.
But you okay. So you wrote that. When did you write Air? Let's just go right into it. When did you write Air?
Air, I wrote back in March, and it's like something like I always had this image of like I saw my grandmother die momentarily, like when I was like actually 14, but I said 16 in the poem, whatever.
Right.
But it's all the same at that point. And I've always had an image of that in my head. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. It's like your grandmother died, right? But like, I've always wanted to use that as like something that I wanted to put in the poem, and I've always wanted to write something about mental health.
Right.
And those two I've always been like jammed on, and then I just took them and I merged them, and Air came out, and that was really cool.
Right. And in Air, you went from your teenage years into like your younger youth days in the 20s and everything like that, and it kind of, you were talking about the dark times and how you were feeling, and self-medicating with certain things in order to alleviate whatever was going on in your mind.
Yeah.
And then you started talking about how you started to elevate and get into your lane. So tell me about the process of writing Air, and like kind of like how long did it take you to write Air and then finally drop it? It took her a while, but
well, actual writing of Air was like a couple hours, but I don't want to make it seem like it was that easy, because the conceptualizing of Air was like several years in the making, right? And then one day I had signed up for an international slam. First of all, let me just say for the record, I hate slams. Okay. Okay. But that is a really cool way to learn about, like, get honest feedback from yourself, because everyone always is all like, good job. Yeah. But if you see the scores and you're like, okay, I'm not really all that good, so Air was something that I was like, okay, I want to do something different than what I normally do, and I think this is the time for me to finally open up about my mental health journey. Mm-hmm. And then Air just came out of nowhere. It came out of the air, honestly, for me. And that's like a lot of my writing process. Like I'll get a thought and I'll start writing it down, and then I'll be like, ooh, this could be a piece actually, and then it just comes like that. Right. It's been cool. I always say, like, I'm an accidental poet. Like, it's like not
an accidental purpose, clearly. Right.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's like I was saying, like when I was 16, I was just writing to vent, and then a teacher happened to see what I was writing to vent, and I was like, oh crap, I'm like totally getting detention right now. So she was like peering over my shoulder, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm definitely getting detention at this point, right? And she's like, wait, you're a really, really good poet. I'm like, what do you mean poet? I'm just like writing stuff down. This is how I feel. I'm just I'm a Leo, okay? So I'm just dramatic.
Wait, time out. You thought you were going to get detention for writing what you wrote?
It was bad.
Fun fact.
Okay, look, I only got detention once in high school ever, and it was for being late to class.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I don't want... And you understand, Indian parents, detention means, oh my god, it's on your record,
almost
which
like
means...
Right?
Yeah, which means, oh my god, your chances of going to a good school are going down.
Right.
My life was over. If I got another detention, could you imagine what would happen?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I would be dead. Okay, all that be left with these black and white journals about gray clouds.
You got introspection.
Introspection came after that.
Much after there would have been no introspection.
There would be no introspection. There would be no arson.
Oh boy.
She'd be dead in condensed.
Thank God she's still here.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so your teacher told you about all these amazing things that you're writing and that people could actually resonate with what you have to say. So what did that make you feel like as a teenager?
I was like, who would want to listen to me, first of all? Like, I mean, I would say until like maybe my early 30s, which isn't, I can't believe that my early 30s was like not pretty long ago at this point.
Right.
I'm like, I'm gonna be 36 and on the 15th, but like, yeah, I just didn't think that anybody would want to listen to me, and like I was kind of like the invisible kid in school, you know, like, and so I was just like, why would anybody want to listen to that? And I took what you said with a grain of salt, but I kept writing because it felt good, and now I was like, oh, I could say I'm a poet.
Right.
Okay. So, and then like Edgar Allan Poe was one of my favorite poets, of course.
He's amazing. He's great. I read a lot of his stuff too,
Yeah, oh my god, he's so good. But so you can imagine how my poetry was, how dark my poetry was. And I was like, I could get real dark with it. Okay. And like I went through like a goth phase. Sorry, I went through like a goth phase in high school. So I was like, all right.
Which is okay because as you said, like as your poetry has started to enhance itself and grow, you found yourself being able to balance both. So now, being at the poetry level that you're at now, where you're performing, writing books, and doing everything, right? What do you see yourself writing about more so now?
I mean, honestly, I think it also has to do with my mental evolution too. Like I've gone through like a lot of journey with like different. I had like I was telling you earlier. I had PTSD from like an experience and things like that has evolved my mentality, and I'm a lot more positive than I used to be, I feel. But I'm not like gonna be like the rainbows and clouds and unicorns and everything
because it doesn't relate to you, right?
Yeah, I'm like realistically optimistic. Like I'll be like, okay, this has happened, but you can rise from it, and you'll notice that's like a consistent like message in all the poetry. Even in air, you can see that like your downfalls are what makes you rise, and like if you don't fall, how are you supposed to stand up again? And the more you fall, the deeper you fall, the higher you have to stand up, right? And that's like my philosophy in life, and that's what I try to put into my poetry, like when I'm talking about my personal journeys. And even Introspectrum, even though like I don't really talk about love that much, but Introspectrum is completely about love and heartbreak. And even that is like that. Like you won't get mushy from me, but you will get realistic optimism. You know.
I like that realistic optimism. I like that. That's bars, poetic bars. So now, side note, fun fact: as a poet, do you have a lot of like notebooks that you wrote poems in that you just have not published yet?
Yes, I have tons. I'm like addicted to buying like cute journals from Target and Barnes and Noble. I have like a Barnes and Noble membership just for the journals. Right. It's bad. and like everything will have like 1 or 2 lines in it. I even have Post-it like at work sometimes I'll get inspired. Please don't like it. But I'll get inspired and I have like Post-it notes. I have like a whole like thing of Post-it notes with just like, oh, this could be a poem, this could be a poem. Yeah. So yeah, they're everywhere.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, when you started getting into, like you said, so you've been writing for a long time, you have all these different books. How did you put that into Introspectrum?
So Introspectrum is actually, I like to call it like a journal.
Right.
I had gone through like a 2.5 year pretty abusive relationship, and I had just written, like, and communication was something that just didn't happen in that relationship, and 2 relationships after that, but whatever. I realized I had like a trend of like not dating people who can communicate, and maybe me too. But
you started writing about it.
Yeah, so I started writing about like everything I would want to say to him, and it became like this 500-page manuscript, which I sat on, and then I started following 2i Publishing. They're like a small Black New York-based publisher, and I noticed like during quarantine, hella bored, okay? So I just like was on Instagram all the time, and I noticed that they posted that they are looking for new authors. Yeah. And I said, oh, I have this 500-page manuscript, and I wonder if like I should just submit it just to see. Like, you know, you can never do anything without just like, you have to just go for it, right?
Absolutely.
I'm like a hard believer of like, if I see something that I'm interested in, I'll like message person and be like, oh, I'm interested in that, and like that's just what I do. And so I just submitted my manuscript. And he liked it. He said we're going to cut it down a lot, but he liked it, you know? And that's how Introspectum came about.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now, like, what's been the feedback when people started, like, reading it and getting it and everything? What's been the feedback like?
My mom is also like me, where she does not like love poems, really. And she even liked it. That shows you, like...
Okay, Mom. Shout out to you, Mom. Okay.
Yeah, I know. First of all, Mom is a tough critic. And when Mom approves, then I know it's pretty good, right. You know? But in general, people have been like, this is something that I can actually read back and like just as a reminder. Like the book is set up in a way that like, you know how they have like affirmation cards? Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's set up in that way too, except for the dark section. There's like 3 sections. The dark section's all about heartbreak. So like if you want to be in that vibe, that's the section for you.
Right. So it has a balance for everybody, right?
Yeah, and it's like, and it really is like, and I give a lot of props to my publisher for that. Is like he made it so that it's like a story. Like it's in 3 sections. There's dark, penumbra, and light. Dark is all about the heartbreak section. Yeah. Penumbra is like coming out of the breakout and like trying to find yourself and your self-love.
Yeah.
And then light is all about self-love.
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's really cool.
That's awesome. So now you actually are going to be performing.
Yeah, I perform actually every
All the time.
weekend, all the time.
All the time, every weekend. Now, is it still the Instagram lives, or are you actually going now in person?
Oh, I'm outside. Oh, I'm outside.
He said we outside.
Yeah, and
So where can we find you at some of these poetry slams?
so I just recently performed at the New York Poetry Festival.
Right.
And I got to read 5 minutes of my book, which was really cool. Like my publisher actually had
That's
like
awesome.
a slot, and
Nice.
that was really cool.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, oof, my God, I'm like super. I can. But sometimes it doesn't seem real. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just happens
Right.
so quickly. But
That's
it's not,
amazing.
yeah, it's not quickly technically, but I mean, whatever. I'm getting into the space, okay? But
Right, yeah.
but yeah, so I always perform like monthly at Omi's, of course. Omi's is every Friday at the end of the month in New Jersey, and then I also perform at Mr. E's open mic, which is
Right.
Revolution Rendezvous, and he does that. I feel like it's like every second to last Saturday, but it's like whenever.
That's awesome.
And Billion Bars Club, I performed there.
Big shout out to Billion Bars Club.
Yeah,
Definitely.
El Bezel, he's the guy. Yeah, so I perform there all the time too. So you
That's
can
awesome.
definitely find me there.
And now, what are we looking forward to for the rest of the year? Because we're almost done. But what are we seeing? Are we seeing like another Air Part 2? Like what are we seeing here? Give me a little something. Don't give me too much. Give me a little something.
I do have an animated poem coming out,
Okay.
which is really cool. I did
Stay tuned
an
for that. Yeah.
yeah, I did an animated poem with this girl like a while ago in October called which was like based on American Psycho. So this is not going to be like that. This one's not going to be like that. So that's coming out. I have a couple more visuals coming out that are like in the works, in the process.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we'll see.
That's awesome.
I'll just keep posting about it when it
Most
comes
definitely.
out.
Well, look, Jersey, man, you heard it here first. We got Miss Arson, the poet in the building. Tell them how they can book you, follow you, everything. Go ahead.
Hey, so you can follow me at r.sen_the_poet on Instagram, and I have a website that is coming up soon called nmbrsendthepoet.com. And you can find me there.
Definitely. We are Jersey Magazine, Miss Arson, the poet. Sign off.
We are Jersey. 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 We are Jersey.